Hello, viewers, and good morning. I say good morning to everybody. My name is Bamidele Jacobs. I'm a lawyer, and I work with an organization called Lawyers Alert. It's a human rights organization. It is an organization that takes upon violation of the rights of key populations and every member of the public. And we offer pro bono services that are free of charge to members of the Nigerian public. This morning, I shall be discussing the subject matter of the Nigerian police and your rights at the point of arrest. Now, when a police officer effects an arrest, what rights do you have with such an officer? Now, to start with, it is important to state that the police has the right to effect the arrest of anyone on a reasonable suspicion. In fact, that is the way the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 puts it. That is, the police has the right to arrest on a reasonable suspicion of having committed an offense. But it is technical to begin to discuss here what is reasonable. But then, it is what is reasonable is not always a point that everybody must agree with. And so, it suffices, it is just important to say that it is what somebody will hear and will say, okay, this police officer ought to have even effected the arrest of this person. And so, let's leave it at that. Then the moment an arrest is effected, then what follows again is that the officer that is effecting that arrest must inform the one who is being arrested of the nature of the offense he has committed or is being suspected to have committed. That is, nobody can be arrested without that person being informed in a language that he understands of the reason for his arrest. That is, the suspicion that the police officer has must be made known to the person that is being arrested. That is very, very important. And so it will be unlawful for any police officer to tend to or enforce or to enforce the arrest of any individual without telling that individual what he has suspected him or her of doing. Very, very important. Now, we are talking, this is important when a police officer decides without having a prior knowledge or without having a prior knowledge of an individual having committed an offense. Supposing a police officer goes on the street, for example, and he sees somebody and he suspects that person of having committed a crime, and the police wants to effect the arrest, we know definitely that that police officer is not likely to have what we call an arrest warrant on that spot, because he never envisaged that he was going to meet anybody that would be suspected of having committed a crime. And so, but for any arrest that is known ahead, for example, somebody goes to the police station or lay a complaint against another person, definitely the law requires that such a police officer, before he goes out to effect the arrest of that individual, must be armed with what we call an arrest warrant. Very, very important. And that arrest warrant must be signed by a superior police officer. Or even if it is not in the form of a formal arrest warrant, then it must be an authority signed by a superior police officer. And by superior police officer, we mean a police officer from the rank of assistant superintendent of the police. So, an authority can also be signed by such an officer, which empowers another officer to go and or effect the arrest of any individual. Very, very important. So, we have been able to say two things here. That is, if an arrest is known ahead, a police officer is supposed to arrest with what we call an arrest warrant or a warrant of arrest. Very, very important. But if it is one which he never envisaged, or which he does not know about, the officer does not know about ahead, then that police officer can also effect an arrest without a warrant of arrest. But then, either with a warrant of arrest or without a warrant of arrest, all that is important is that the police officer goes ahead to inform the person being arrested in the language the person understands of the crime he has suspected him of committing. Very, very important. Now, another important thing that we must bear in mind here is that the moment that person is arrested and he has been informed of the crime he's been suspected of committing, and is taken to, the person must be taken to a police station. And on getting to a police station, before you put down any statement, the police officer is expected to go ahead and also tell you about your right to remain silent. Very, very important. That is a constitutional provision. And so it is required, it is important, it is something every one of us must insist on. And so it is important, you are told that you can remain silent until you have a conversation with a legal practitioner of your choice. That is, if you are taking, the moment you are required to put down to put down your statement, which is an account of whatever you know about the crime for which you have been alleged to have committed, it is important that you can insist that you have a consultation with a legal practitioner, a lawyer, first, before you do anything. It is a constitutional right. And so, if that is not done to you, it is a violation of your right. So, the moment the police informs you of that right, then you cannot say that you are also at liberty to go ahead and say, but whatever you say may be used against you in a court of law. Very, very important. Let's bear all that in mind. And it is important that if any of us ask any question, you should begin to forward them and see how we deal with each of these ones. Now, the moment you are being informed of your right to remain silent, or your right to have a consultation with a legal practitioner of your choice before you make any statement, then you can go ahead, if you like, to do what? To go ahead to make your statement. At the moment you make your statement, remember to date your statement, and remember to cross out any empty space on that sheet of paper, on which you have put your statement. That will forestall the possibility of anybody coming to add anything to whatever you have been able to put down yourself. And in case the suspect is not educated enough to be able to put out anything, then, and if you have anybody around that can help you write, it is important you are allowed to invite that person over to help you put down whatever you are saying. Or if such a person is not available, then the police officer on duty can help you do that. But the danger here is that we are only to say the likelihood of somebody else putting in what you have not said. Very, very important. You must do everything possible to guide against that. Now, the moment you are informed of your right and you have gone ahead to write your statement, and the police considers that it is not a capital offense, or whatever you are being alleged of is not a capital offense, that is, it is not an offense that is punishable by death, it then means the police can grant you bail after that. But then the police will not just grant you a bail, they are also under obligation to see that you also provide a reasonable surety. And by surety we mean somebody that will stand to guarantee that each time you are wanted at the police station, you'll be made available. it is not just anybody. That person must be reasonable. And by reasonability, we mean that person must be somebody that is of a standing such that it's not somebody that can run away, that the police will look for and will not be able to find. Because he's coming to guarantee that at every point that you are needed, he's going to make you available. And this is somebody too that police will make a recourse to when they cannot or did not know your whereabouts. And so that person must be a person of good standing. Then it is important to state here that a woman can also stand shorty for anybody. So let's not be deceived by that, because there have been so many cases where or people say that the police head somewhere is saying a woman cannot stand shorty. Our law permits a woman the same way that a man can stand shorty for anyone. And another thing is this, that a husband can stand shorty for his wife, the same way that the wife can stand shorty for the husband. Very, very important. And before I forget, bail is free. This is not just in words, but I must state this. Most times, a lot of us expect that our rights should be given to us on the platter of gold. Even the developed countries that we see today, that all of us talk about today, that we see as our role models when it comes to protecting the rights of citizens, those countries did not achieve what they do overnight. And so it takes time, it takes you and I insisting on our rights, insisting on what is right, for these things to begin to take shape gradually. Because there have been cases where relatives of a suspect who is at the police station who say they don't want to see their person spend even 2-3 hours at the police station, because they feel, oh, before you know it, they'll begin to run helter-skelter. They'll begin to feel as if the person should not spend 2 minutes, should not spend 10 minutes there. I mean, that is not good for us to be able to enforce our rights. And so, out of desperation, they go to do ugly things. They go to do things that are unlawful. They go to do things that are not right in law. They go to do things that are not even morally right. Out of frustration, out of desperation. And so it is important sometimes for us to be patient and see that our rights are enforced. And see that we insist on our rights. We insist on the right things being done at every point in time. That is also important. Bail, I say once more, is free. And so let me quickly mention the issue of a bail bond. Now, each time you are standing shorty for somebody, you will now see that that bond you are signing, that document you are going to sign, which will stand as an evidence that you are standing shorty for somebody. Now, there's usually an amount written on that thing, on that document. That amount is not meant for you to be paid before you stand shorty. What that amount is there for is that if the person you are standing shorty for jumps bail, that is, he runs away, the police cannot find the person any longer, or the court cannot find the person any longer, because it applies also in our various courts. It then means that is what you will pay for volunteering to stand shorty for that individual. That is when that amount becomes payable. So it is not payable at the point of standing shorty for the suspect. And I say suspect because we are still talking at the level of the police station. Even our various laws are not even referring to individuals any longer as accused persons. In fact, in our various laws, we are now seeing defendants in place of accused persons. That is good for us. Now, and another important thing that we must bear in mind is this. The law says that on no account should somebody be detained beyond a period of 48 hours at the police station. In fact, the law specifically says if there is a court of competent jurisdiction, a court that has the authority to be able to hear the case or the kind of the offense, to be able to entertain the kind of offense for which the person has been suspected of committing, and there's a court of such within 40-kilometer radius of that court, that person must be charged to court within a period of 24 hours. It is when there is no court within the 40-kilometer radius of that police station, that is when the 48 hours applies. And so outside a 40-kilometer radius of the court, of the police station, it then means all other cases fall within 48 hours. In any case, what we are emphasizing basically is that on no account should a suspect spend more than 48 hours at the police station. If the police feels it is impossible for them to grant what we call an administrative bail to that suspect, what the police need to do is to charge the suspect to court. So if the court feels so, the court can order the detention of that individual. So bail at that level comes within the discretion of the court, but the police must satisfy itself that within a period of 48 hours, a suspect is charged to court. It is not heard beyond that. Very, very, very important. Very, very important. And we must also bear in mind that the Constitution presumes a suspect or an accused person, whatever name called, innocent until is proven guilty by a court that has the powers to say so. And so what that means is that it is unlawful, it is wrong. It is your right to insist that there must not be anything like beating, there must not be anything like torture by the police, all in the name of interrogation. We are saying this because in our system here, we thank God things are improving gradually, but we are still far from being there. It is always the practice that each time we hear interrogation, what goes on usually in interrogation is not questioned in here. It is beating, torturing, and all kinds of ugly things. And so it is your right as a suspect not to be what? To be tortured, not to be beaten, not to be slapped, not to even be unnecessarily harassed by the police or by a police officer. Because the Constitution presumes you innocent until a court of competent jurisdiction proves you guilty. That is when you are said to be guilty of that offense, and appropriate punishment at that level will be meted out. Then I must say a little on what I mentioned before, and that is the right to a legal practitioner. Now, as long as you insist, your legal practitioner or your doctor must always have an access to you at the police station. That is, the police cannot lawfully prevent your legal practitioner, your lawyer, the one you have held out as your lawyer, from having conversations with you from time to time. And on your own insistence, as a right, you can make consultations with him, just as I've said before you make any statement. Let's bear all this or in mind. And another important thing is that whatever is not done rightly by the police, always bear in mind that you have the right to bring a civil action to enforce your right against the police. And so, gone to this ignorance where people think, it is the police. Who are you to now sue the police? It is easy to sue the police. You can sue the police at any time, or any security agent for that matter, or agency for that matter. Whatever we say about the police here applies to all our other security agencies, be it the army, be it the civil defense, all of them, all the ones that I have not or mentioned too, are applicable to everything we have said here. I don't know.